Hello my loves, and a very warmest of welcomes back to The Library is Open. So I hope you've brought your library cards, my darlings. Have to say that it's mandated by the terms and conditions of this organisation. How are you? I hope you're well. So today, as suggested by the title, I am going to attempt to get through as many of your Ask a Book Sniffer questions that I haven't yet got to. I've realised that this is taking a lot longer than I thought, so maybe this will be the last one of its kind, maybe it won't, I'm not sure yet, but I do want to give proper time to all the questions you asked me because, you know, you made the effort to ask them, and that just feels like the right thing to do. So, if you haven't seen my previous episodes of this, go to my channel, have a little search through my videos, and you'll find the previous installments. And as always, I will be running all the questions through a random choice generator so that I'm not like pre-preparing my answers. I'm giving you proper kind of off-the-cuff, non kind of rehearsed responses to what you'd like to know, which hopefully is better. So my hair's really bouncy this morning. I've just realised I washed it last night. I say that like that's a weird thing that I don't normally wash, but I do, I promise. But it smells very nice. It smells a little bit coconutty, which is which is weird because it wasn't a coconut shampoo. But hey ho, such is life. So without further ado, let's kick off with some more A's to your Q's, shall we? First choice. Oh, lovely. Okay, so this is from Star Cradle. Hello. What was the first book you ever read or recall reading? Wow, that's it's a stumper, I should say, not thumper. Possibly both. I'm gonna discount the ones that were read to me. Although maybe I shouldn't. I suppose one of the earliest that I remember being read to me, other than sort of like baby books and so on and so forth, was a book called Not Now, Bernard, which was I can't remember who it's by. In fact, we could just look that up, couldn't we? Which I do remember when I was a kid. Oh, it's by David McKee, and it's about this young boy who tries to get his parents' attention, and they're too busy to sort of deal with him, and they keep saying, "Not now, Bernard," and eventually he gets eaten by a monster in his own back garden. Spoilers. But there was that, and there was also Where the Wild Things Are, which was, I think, was that Maurice Sendak? Because I do remember that when I was quite a young kid, yeah, Maurice Sendak, my auntie worked at a nursery, and they did, no, it mustn't have been a nursery, it must have been a school, because they were older, and they did a play of Where the Wild Things Are, which I remember very little about, but I'd have an image in my mind of going to watch it. So they would have probably been the books that I was read most as a kid. But then again, you know, memory is highly subjective. But I think probably one of the earliest ones I would I would have read on my own would probably have been one of the Secret Seven books by Enid Blyton, because my nan had two sort of really early editions. She still got them, I think, and they're probably worth a few bob now, of I think Secret Seven Adventure, or and then maybe Puzzle for the Secret Seven. I could be remembering that wrong. Which came out respectively in, I think I want to say the 40s. But I wouldn't swear to it. Oh yeah, between the 40s and the 60s. So they must have been quite early editions of those that she had, and I would have absolutely eaten them up, metaphorically speaking, obviously. So I think they're probably the earliest. I had a lot of love for Enid Blyton as a kid. I realised getting older how dodgy the books are, and, you know, the problematic opinions that they have that were very much a product of the time, which is not an excuse, more of an explanation. But yeah, they sort of really catapulted me into reading properly. I think maybe fall in love with series. You know how much I enjoy recurring characters and gentle mystery and stuff like that. So it was really, really a formative part of my reading. So I think probably I'll go with that. Great question. Next up we have From Sarah G. Hi, Sarah. Is there anyone you'd really wish would write their autobiography? Obviously, that hasn't already. That's a good question. If you're wondering what I'm doing, by the way, I have the random choice generator on my laptop, which is down here. Oh, gosh. Off the top of my head, I'm going to say Melanie C. from the Spice Girls. Because I don't think she has written her autobiography, and she was absolutely my favourite Spice Girl. She did influence me in many ways to go to drama school in Liverpool. It's a true story. But I don't know, she was the one I sort of resonated with. I don't know if that was because she was Northern, although Mel B was Northern as well, so maybe it's not just that. But I don't know, maybe part of me recognised her, I don't know, sort of, I don't know, working class sensibility, and the fact that she was a bit punky as well. Maybe that drew me in. I don't know. But I'd really like to read her autobiography because I've kind of stuck with her career since leaving the Spice Girls, who I do love. But also as a solo artist, I think she has a lot of integrity and talent as a soloist. So I think, yeah, let's go with her. I would have thought I'd say someone really like political or something like that, but then again, there's nothing to say that people who are involved in pop culture are not political in their own way, or, you know, as sociologically important. So yeah, I don't want to be a snob about that. Let's go Melanie C. Sporty Spice, to give her a Sunday name. Great question. Thanks, Sarah. Next up we have, oh, lovely, Emma Salito. How did you meet and become best buddies with Paul and Gemini? Well, so I first met Paul and the lovely Jason from Those Vegan Guys. How many years ago now? 12 years ago now. I was in a production of Rent at the Grange in Oldham. Beautiful theatre in the round. Well, it's an adaptable theatre. It's in the round, but also thrust and proscenium, depending on how you set the seats up. And Paul came to see the show with friends, and when I came into the bar afterwards, we got talking, and I remember very distinctly that they said to me, we're going to be friends. And I just thought, oh, great, wonderful. They were very complimentary, and you know, we got on very well almost immediately. And anyway, they ended up inviting me to their wedding, which was actually a week later. And I went, and the rest, as they say, is history. We just got closer, and you know, Paul is very much someone that I connected with very early on. I met Gemini much later when we decided to, I mean, I knew of Gemini and Paul's history with Gemini, but see, I can't stop touching my hair now. Just make it greasy again. Well done, Stuart. Yeah, I met them, Gemini, much later when we decided to start an act together. Gemini had been very active, obviously, many years before, and had a long history in drag. I had a shorter history in drag, which, you know, had started maybe sort of 2004, 5, something like that. This was prior to meeting Paul, and I'd never done that with anybody else, and it had sort of gone on the back burner for various reasons when I'd been sort of acting more than doing drag. And then, yeah, that's when I met Gemini, and, you know, miasma became as good a pal to Gemini, well, a relative, in fact, as I became to Paul, who I love very, very dearly, and is a huge part of my life. So, lovely question. Thank you. What else have we got? Another one from Star Cradle. Lovely. What are your favourite album covers? Oh, crikey. Oh, gosh. That's great question. I'm just thinking now off the top of my head. So I really, this is going to sound like a cop-out, I really like the iconography of the Spice Girls album covers. The first two, Spice and Spice World, I like a thematic design aesthetic, I'm not going to lie, and the fact that each was contained in a letter of the word Spice and subsequently Spice World is a big thing for me. I will stop touching my hair. I really liked that. I wasn't so keen on the third album, Forever, which was a sort of more grown-up thing, more adult kind of. They were trying to do something different, I think, with the record. It's not my personal favourite. I don't hate it, but, you know, they had an aesthetic established, which is what I related to. So I really like those. I really like, actually, I don't know if these are going to be favourites of all time, but I'm just going to go off what I think now. I really like the latest Alanis Morissette album. Let me just get the exact title of it, because it's beautiful. Such Pretty Forks in the Road, which is essentially Alanis, all done completely in glitter. I think that's gorgeous. I like simple as a design aesthetic. Simple and striking as a design aesthetic. Don't think what else I really like. Oh, I tell you what else I really love. The Smashing Pumpkins, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness is lovely. That sort of Victorian steampunky kind of inspired vibe that they have. Trying to think of any more. You'd think I'd have more classics in here, wouldn't you? I have a lot of love for the iconography, again, of Nevermind the... Here's the Sex Pistols. I think they're quite iconic. Similar, really, I suppose, with the Clash album, like London Calling and stuff, is a great example. I used to have that on a t-shirt. I actually liked the album. I didn't just buy the t-shirt, which I know you can do these days. Yeah. I think they're probably going to be... It's definitely going to be more about aesthetic, and it doesn't necessarily mean that I love the music. Although in all the cases I mentioned, I do love the music. But yeah, that's kind of where that's my like go-to. Also, big shout out to the first Scissor Sisters album as well. The one with Laura Return to Oz on, with the woman sort of walking into this like magical forest that's also a city and stuff. I really like that. So yeah, again, strong design. I just really relate to strong design. Great question. Love that. Next up. Oh, another one from Star. Lovely. And as an actor, are there any recommended acting exercises that you found unhelpful or even silly? Great question. I don't necessarily think in terms of particular exercises, but I do have some issues, not only as an actor, but also as a teacher, with elements of what we refer to as method acting, which is essentially total immersion in the character, living as the character. Daniel Day-Lewis does this a lot. And, you know, that sort of... that kind of culture around sacrificing everything to be completely immersed in a character, which I think is problematic and dangerous, particularly for younger actors, and or people who have issues with their mental health and stuff. You know, acting is not, in my opinion, to be, somewhat ironically, to be played with. You know, you have to be very careful about how deeply you delve into your own psyche. And I also find method acting quite self-indulgent in some respects. I hope I don't get crucified for saying that. Let me expand what I mean. I mean in terms of, if not that everybody does this who practices method acting, but if you're not careful, there is the danger that you consciously or subconsciously start to believe that you are more important than the play. Whereas, to my mind, the story, the play, is the thing, to slightly misquote Hamlet. But no one individual performance is better or more important than the whole, you know. And also, I think as actors, we need to remember that we are there in service of that, rather than to feed our own egos. And so, in doing so, we have 50% of, I believe, the work that we do on character and truth, which we look for in acting, but also 50% on the awareness that this is a performance. You know, we don't really live in this world, and it is inherently theatrical, so it can't be complete realism, because the people watching us know they're in a cinema, they know they're in a theatre, you know, and we owe them. We have to be aware, not only for our safety, but for the audience's safety, and not get bogged down in the minutiae of our own indulgence. So I think, yeah, that for me, I am aware that people have vastly different opinions on that, but for me, the most important thing is to remember that it is both a performance and a job. You know, that really, really matters to me, and to look after our mental health, and anything that kind of threatens that is dodgy territory. Thank you for that. I do appreciate that as a question. Oh, which is your favourite creative outlet? Oh, lovely question. Oh, but so hard as well. See, this is why I like these questions. These are really probing, deep, interesting questions. I honestly don't know. Well, no, that's not true, because the older I've got, I think this has shifted. As a kid, the only thing I imagined was being an actor, a performer, sort of full-time, which is a bit of a contradiction in terms. But the older I've got, the more I am enamoured of the other elements that enable that performance. Not that I don't like performing or anything, because I do. I still love it. But in my sort of secondary career as a writer, as it were, I get a lot from that, although I'm quite lazy as well with writing. But I do believe that is the sort of point of writing. Writing is 90% walking around the house, drinking coffee and pretending to look for inspiration. Not pretending. But yeah, no, I love the aesthetic qualities of it. Drag as well is a huge one, which the older I get, the more I associate with my career in acting. The more I think they are complementary skills that speak to one another. And that I'm not saying that all drag artists are actors or all actors are drag artists, but what I'm saying is that if you are both, the crossover is much more evident. So I think a sort of combination, really, because I don't really think of anything that I do as non-creative, even if I was sort of, you know, even when I'm teaching or something, which seems to be a more kind of practical hands-on thing, I still think of that as a creative outlet. So enabling, that is going to be my favorite creative outlet, enabling creativity. I hope that's a good answer. But it's just that it's the answer that makes the most sense to me, and that will probably change. It's very much a movable feast. Lovely, thank you. Starry, starry night. Oh, from TVG, those vegan guys. What is your favourite time to eat and your favourite meal? A 2-in-1 combo. Oh, okay. Oh, good question. Favourite time to eat? I'm probably going to say early evening, which I know is not necessarily recommended, but, you know, we can't just completely go on recommendations, can we? All the time. Otherwise, we just have no free choice in anything. Early evening, maybe, so 7 o'clock to about 8, something like that. I really, really like to eat. I don't know why, it just feels like a nice sort of point in the day to sort of do a little full stop to the kind of work. That is very optimistic, because if I've got a deadline, sometimes I am working later, but it is a nice sort of placeholder in the day. My favourite meal, that's really tricky actually, because I'm such a faddy eater, which I believe is a Gemini trait, not across the board, clearly, but I mean Gemini, the star sign, not the drag artiste extraordinaire. I'm very faddy, so I will often eat the same things a lot, repeatedly. But if I had a favourite meal, I think the one that's endured, really, is probably pizza, which is a really boring answer. And thankfully, we can get a lot more of those vegan-wise. If not pizza, then sandwiches, which is very non-specific of me. But I really love a sandwich. When we went to the Rochdale Vegan Festival, probably a few weeks ago when you see this, Paul, Jason and I, and we were just sat outside I was having a sandwich, they were having a pasty, and I was just like, God, I love a sandwich. I really, really do. It's simple things for me. You know, I'm not one for like what we would have called in the 80s and 90s nouvelle cuisine or anything posh like that. I don't like paying a lot of money for food. I like simple statement classics. Oh, another one. I love a salad. I love a salad. If I had a big salad, I'd be so happy with that. So happy. Not so much rocket. I'm not that keen on rocket, but you know, some greens, maybe some croutons in there. Other things that make up a salad. I don't know. But yeah, all of those three things, which to say is a rubbish, non-committal answer, but I reserve the right as a faddy Gemini. Thank you. What do we got next? Oh, here's one. Emma Silito. How did you get into the drag scene? And also from Sassy Girl, how old were you when you started drag? Great questions. So initially, I got into the drag scene, although not in any way, shape, or form the way that I do it now. I think it would have been about 2004-5. Quite on a whim, I had a friend who asked me to create a character for a weekend away thing that they were running, and I created a character called Sister Sodomy, who was like a Catholic nun. And that was kind of just a silly thing that I did. It wasn't very good, but then again, to be fair, drag has changed a lot in a relatively short space of time, or rather what we perceive as drag has changed a lot. You know, but horrible matted wigs and things like that was vile. Yeah, so I did that, and then I had some appearances at there was a club night called Quentin Wet and Quentin Wept, which used to take place in Manchester, that I sort of performed at a few times and co-hosted at a bar which shall remain nameless. And then yeah, I sort of did that like sort of on and off really. I performed at like squats and stuff like that. It was kind of, I guess, edgy drag, although all drag is kind of edgy in a way. It's about ridiculing gender, so of course it is. I mean to say ridiculing the concept of gender, not anybody's actual gender, which I don't agree with. That's what I believe drag is. It's a satire on what people think gender is supposed to be. And that's what it takes the mickey out of, which is, you know, when some people sort of say that you know, that drag queens are mocking women. Not at all. Well, certainly not my drag. My drag is absolutely about paying tribute to women, but also mocking what society expects women to be. But also men as well, because, you know, it's, as a non-binary person as well, I would say that I do just drag, you know, without a specified gender after that. Yeah, so I did that for a while, and then it kind of went on hold for a while because I started acting more. Not that drag isn't acting, as I've said before, but and it kind of came back when Paul and I began to experiment with that. Paul was at the time hosting a TV show, and we did sort of our first appearance as Gemini and Miasma on that. And things kind of snowballed from there, really, and we became an act, and that's when I think I started to take drag seriously, but also recognise the changes that had taken place in drag over the years. As well, to go back to when I was doing Sister Sodomy as well, you know, I'd done sort of pride events and stuff like that, and we'd been in the parade, on floats, a couple of clubs, pubs, things like that, but it wasn't anywhere near as, it didn't have the thought process behind it for me that it has now. But, you know, to trace it back even further, if I'm honest, I probably really started with my roots in drag as like a child, when I have an obsession with Grease 2, the film, and I constructed a Michelle Pfeiffer as a Christmas tree costume that I would wear on any and every occasion. So I think the roots were always there, if that makes sense. I hope that answered your question. But yeah, so sort of since, how many years now would it be? Is it 5 or 6 we've been doing the vegan queens now? That's when I really sort of started to take it seriously and also believe in myself as a drag performer, and, you know, realize that I can do elements of drag performance outside of our club act, you know, so I'll bring it into my acting work sometimes. My agent will put me up for things that are in drag. I've done sort of one-off events, art galleries, filmed stuff as, not as my asthma, but in drag sort of thing. You know, so it feels much more holistic now, and that's kind of how I really sandwich drag into my larger career. Great question. Final one, I think, for this, because we're on 25 minutes now. They keep giving me the same ones. That's hardly random, is it? Okay, here's one from Star. Nice one to finish on. Have you ever experienced chills whilst reading a book? Yes. I want to say probably a lot, but the ones that spring to mind are The Hours by Michael Cunningham, which you may have seen the film of, with Nicole Kidman and Meryl Streep and Julianne Moore, which is an incredible film, which is about Virginia Woolf, a woman in the 50s, and Meryl Streep in sort of late 90s New York, which is a beautiful story about how people are connected over the generations, and something about that gives me chills. There's something very sort of beautifully human about that, I think, recognizing that we're all part of a long and ongoing continuum that I adore, and just that concept gives me chills. From a literal sentence, there's a short story by a writer called Penelope Lively, who I love, and she wrote a short story that I actually initially read in school but didn't study. It was part of an anthology, and then I bought the collection that it's in, which is called A Pack of Lies. It's called The Darkness Out There, and the opening is just beautiful. The story is about a young girl who is about to start secretarial training, and a young boy who is about to be I think he's trained to be a mechanic, as I recall. I could be wrong there. And they visit an old lady as part of this sort of young people's care in the community type thing. And it emerges that there was a German pilot during the war who crashed not far from where the old lady lives. And she tells them a story about what happens when she discovered him injured. And it's just, I don't want to spoil. Shall I spoil it? No, I won't spoil it. And it's just chilling, the polarity of the depths of human kindness and the depths of human folly, capacity for evil. And the takeaway is kind of beautiful. The female character Sandra learns a lot about how you can get people wrong, and how what people appear to be on the surface is not necessarily indicative of the darkness or the light within. And it gives me absolute chills, because I think it's just the perfect summing up of the human condition and our capacity for both light and dark. So yeah, lovely question. You really had me thinking there. Okay, so I'm going to call it a day for this one, which means there definitely will be another one of these at some stage. But thank you once again so much for all your questions, and I'm sorry it's taken such a while to get round to them all. But as I said, I wanted to do them all justice. But for now, put your library card somewhere safe, please. Somewhere preferably wiped clean, because who knows what you're going to get on yourself in this modern day world. That sounded dirtier than I meant it to. And I will see you very soon in my next video. So do please take care of yourselves. Keep sanitizing your hands, keep socially distancing, keep wearing masks if you can. And just look after yourself and each other. Be the light out there, not the darkness. All right, my loves. Take care. See you soon. Mwah.